The Senate returns to Washington today and will forge ahead on President Biden's social spending bill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer wants to pass the legislation before Christmas, but the Senate adjourns for the holiday in just 2 weeks, December 13th. It's a tight deadline, and Democrats still have to get moderate Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema on board. Both have threatened to derail the plan. Democrats cannot afford to lose a single vote. Lawmakers are also facing 2 December deadlines: funding the government and raising the debt ceiling. Congress has until Friday to fund the government or face a shutdown. As for the debt ceiling, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the government could reach its limit by December 15th.
So folks, the 5.9% COLA increase is going to mean the larger checks for seniors. And lawmakers and economists are now concerned about how much these benefits will actually increase during the crisis. Chuck Schumer has actually announced a new deadline to pass Biden's social spending bill. So we have a ton of news to go over about the fourth stimulus check, and you want to be sure to stay at the end of the video to find out the latest news about your stimulus payments. Now, Chuck Schumer said today that he will bring President Biden's bill to the Senate floor once the parliamentarian finishes reviewing it, and that it is his goal to pass the roughly $2 trillion bill by the end of the year. Schumer said from the Senate floor that once this necessary work is completed with the parliamentarian, that he's going to bring President Biden's legislation to the floor so that he can pass as soon as possible. That's good news, everybody. Now, Schumer's comments come after the House passed the climate and social spending bill before a weeks-long Thanksgiving break, and the bill faces a hurdle in the Senate where Democrats' 50-seat majority leaves no room for error. Now, lawmakers are also trying to tie up the end-of-year crunch with a backed-up legislative to-do list, including funding the government and raising the debt ceiling, plus passing a big defense bill, which is currently stuck in limbo. Now, Chuck Schumer didn't specify what week he'll try to bring the climate and spending bill to the floor, and also the Democrats are holding talks this week with the Senate parliamentarian, who offers guidance on whether provisions in the bill comply with Senate budget rules. Now folks, Congress also faces a December 3rd deadline to fund the government, and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has said that it needs to raise the nation's borrowing limit by December 15th. What are your thoughts on Congress, everybody? Are they doing all that it takes to send out the fourth stimulus check yet? I want to know your thoughts on this. Now, Congress also faces, plus the Social Security Administration has announced a historic cost of living adjustment of 5.9% that will be applied to benefits for 2022. The increase makes history as the highest offered to seniors in over 40 years, and it's mostly a result of higher than normal inflation brought on by multiple factors resulting from the crisis. Now, the annual boost to monthly payments will help go some way toward keeping seniors and disabled recipients from losing purchasing power. And much of this increase is likely to be offset by similar rises in cost of goods and Medicare. Plus, many of you guys have asked when the hike will take effect. The boost will benefit around 70 million people who receive Social Security or Supplemental Security income. It will begin December 30th in 2021, when around 8 million SSI recipients see their first payments based on the COLA 2022. The remaining beneficiaries can expect their first check with the increase reflected in January. The estimated average for a retired worker will be $92. $92 more beginning with their January payment. This brings a new average up to $1,600. The max monthly payment for those who reach full retirement age in 2022 will be $3,300. And the new federal payment standard for SSI monthly checks will be $841 for individuals and $1,261 for couples. The increase in annual COLA is calculated using a consumer price index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. To counter high inflation, the Federal Reserve could also raise interest rates, but many worry that this could disproportionately affect the U.S. economy. What are your thoughts on Congress, everybody? Are they doing all that it takes to send out the fourth stimulus check? I want to know your thoughts on this. As always, everybody, I truly appreciate your amazing support. If you have any more questions about the fourth stimulus payment, leave them in the comments below.
Now on Ndaa, the Defense Act. Madam President, we begin an important week for what will be an important final month of 2021. Later today, the Senate will vote on cloture on the substitute amendment to the Ndaa. Ndaa has been passed by this chamber for over 60 years, and there's no good reason why this year should be any different. Before Thanksgiving, the Senate worked in as bipartisan way as it could to lay the groundwork for advancing the defense bill. Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman Reid and Ranking Member Inhofe reached an agreement, a bipartisan agreement, on a package of 18 amendments. Let me repeat that, 18 amendment votes for the Senate to hold roll call votes on. Nearly half of those amendments were led by a Republican. That would be more amendments to the Ndaa receiving roll call votes than in the last 4 years combined. We also agreed to the substitute amendment, which included at least 50 amendments, 27 of which were led by a Republican. Senator Inhofe, the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee, agreed to this. In any other time, this would be considered a very fair and generous compromise, even though every member didn't get every amendment they wanted. The leadership on both sides would have made sure that cloture was granted. Unfortunately, Republicans could not accept this agreement before Thanksgiving, but we hope that Republican dysfunction will not be a roadblock to passing this bill and taking care of our troops and their families. Now on government funding. As we all know, by the end of this week, both parties must come to an agreement for funding the government and avoiding a needless shutdown. At the end of September, Democrats and Republicans worked together to keep the government open through December 3rd, avoiding many of the fights that tainted so many funding debates under the previous administration. After the House takes action this week, the Democratic-led Senate will move forward to make sure the government remains funded after the deadline. With so many critical issues, the last thing the American people need right now is a government shutdown. And Democrats are going to work this week to make sure we don't have one this time around. It's important to get it done, and we are working to get it done. And finally, Madam President, on Build Back Better. Before the end of the year, the Senate will also act on President Biden's Build Back Better legislation, which momentously passed the House at the very end of the last work period. This week, Democrats will continue to meet with the Senate parliamentarian in order to complete the technical and procedural work required before a bill comes to the floor. Meetings were held over the Thanksgiving week, and we will continue this week and next week as needed. As I've said repeatedly, once this necessary work is completed with the parliamentarian, I will bring the President's Build Back Better legislation to the floor so we can pass it as soon as possible and send it to the President's desk. Our goal continues to be to get this done before Christmas. Build Back Better represents the largest investment in the American people in generations. Under our bill, child care will be more affordable, pre-K will be more affordable, and raising kids overall will be more affordable for tens of millions of parents. The bill will take unprecedented steps in the fight against the climate crisis, paving the way for even greater action in the future. And as scores of economists from across the ideological spectrum attest to, Build Back Better will not worsen inflation, and in the long run, help bring costs under control. So cutting costs, saving parents money, fighting climate change, and creating the jobs of tomorrow